I've been using the iPhone 15 for a week exclusively, and this is my experience. This video is brought to you by my gorgeous New York City theme wallpaper pack, Skyline. Link in the description and details at the end of the video. Now normally I'm using one of these for the entirety of my review process, but this year I really wanted to actually use this day to day pretty much exclusively. I mean, I've been using this for like Instagram photos and stuff, but no, I've been using this phone for pretty much everything exclusively. I have a Pro Max 2, I turned that off and put it in a drawer. And so far, the experience has been really, really great on the 15 here that I have in pink, 128 gig. The design is really stellar this year. I know it looks similar to the iPhone 13 and 14, but when you hold it in hand and see it in person, it's a lot different, more subtly, but first and foremost, the edges are rounded, which make it so much nicer to hold caseless. Not that you're gonna wanna do that. I personally do, but wouldn't recommend it, especially having your phone on like flat surfaces and scratching. Stay tuned for some scratch-related content. Maybe I deeply scratched one of my phones and I'm gonna do my best to see if I can remove it. Anyway, yeah, the design this year is fantastic. The colors are kind of muted and subtle, but I think the pink and the black and the blue and the green are really wonderful. The other ones are interesting, but yeah, the colors are nice this year. The back glass is now a matte texture, so that's been an exclusive feature with the Pro models. It's on here now. It feels really nice in the hand, a nice difference from glossy, even though glossy looked nice. And I just love how light this phone is. I'm so used to heavier metals like stainless steel and now titanium, even though it's a little lighter. But yeah, I mean, this phone is just so light. It almost makes me want to switch to it because it's just so much easier to handle day to day here. Yeah, it's just so effortless to throw around, and that's thanks to its lighter design made out of aluminum, which also feels nice and premium. It almost makes me want Apple to switch back to aluminum or a lighter metal than even titanium for the Pro models. Next up though, let's talk display. Peep one of my Skyline wallpapers. I'll show these off a little later in the video, but link in the description if you're interested. I have not found myself yearning for more. I'm usually really into the Pro phones for the hertz, the 120 hertz, higher refresh rate, the brightness, but this year Apple made 1000 nits standard, or the standard SDR brightness, and I'm loving it because that's something I'm really into. I love searing my retinas with my phone, so I can now do that with my iPhone 15. We also got the dynamic island, which is really nice. I mean, is it revolutionary? No, but it is a wonderful aspect of the user experience now for listening to music and just seeing other details of what's going on in the background, like with timers and such, so it's nice to see it here too. The bezels are not that big. I mean, they're uniform, they look nice, they're not as thin and trim compared to the ones on the Pros, but I don't mind them at all. I do like how it's a flat display still, like I'm glad they didn't bring back, it's like a little rounded more so than last year's, but it's not quite like the 2.5D that we saw with the 10 and the 6. I'm glad they didn't bring that back. But yeah, so far the display experience has been incredible, even at 60 hertz. This was something I thought I was really going to miss, but I mean, it's not bad. And don't get me wrong, I like 120 hertz. I noticed the difference, but for day-to-day tasks with my phone, it's not that big of a deal. If anything, I know it sips power better with a lower refresh rate display. So, could it be 90? Yeah. Could it be 120? Of course. But I have really been enjoying this. So if you're thinking about buying this phone and you're worried about that, I wouldn't, because not only does it look fine, but Apple's touch sample rate is so high, like it's like 240 hertz or something. So like it's a really responsive 60 hertz display, and it's not going to bug you, especially now that it gets super bright. And of course it's OLED. So if you're upgrading from an even older phone, this display of course is going to look stunning, and a little cherry on top is of course that dynamic island too. Oh, and one last thing before I forget, the 6.1-inch display here is wonderfully compact compared to the Plus or Max size display that I'm used to using. You do give up some battery life, which is the next topic of discussion here, but yeah, I've really been enjoying using this phone one-handed a lot more because it's just not as unwieldy, so I can just toggle UI elements and open apps and scroll really comfortably again with just one hand. Next up though, battery life. This is a mixed bag for me. Again, I'm used to a Pro or Plus phone with a giant battery, 35% bigger for that matter, so I'm used to better screen on time, but the thing is with this, it's really solid. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm ending my days with lower percentages than I would like, but to remedy that, if you are a heavy user, get a MagSafe or Anker 622 power bank. Not sponsored, slap it on there, periodically. The only downside is it's a little chunkier and your phone might get a little hot when you do it. But even without a power bank, I'm able to get through the day, no problem. Again, I just don't have that kind of comfortable headroom that I normally get with a Plus or Max phone. So yeah, you know, ending the day with like at best 20%, at worst single digits. But yeah, it's been decent, you know, and the 60 hertz display contributes to that as well. I think this gets even better battery life than the 14 before the 14 series had some battery issues, by the way, the Pro models specifically. But yeah, this year, solid stuff. Of course, you get USB-C too, so now you can charge your phone with your MacBook cable or just really any universal USB-C cable. This is not a miracle, by the way. Apple needed to do this with the iPhone 12, but it's here, so that's another small reason to buy this phone. But yeah, so far, battery life has been good enough for me, and I'm a pretty heavy user. Next up though, let's talk about the camera updates in the iPhone 15. How has the system been treating me? And the answer is really well. This is the biggest update for the regular model in a while. We now have a 48 megapixel main camera in here with a 24mm or 1x lens, and it has been fantastic shooting at up to 48 megapixel HEIF max images, which are nice, but not always needed. I'm really more so appreciating the new 24 megapixel standard, which makes images just look a lot more sharp and allows you to crop in more. So just like typical photos that you'd take any day, you can now crop into them or zoom into them while retaining more detail. The 48 megapixel sensor also brings a really solid digital 48mm equivalent crop that we got last year with the 14 Pro, and I really enjoyed that. And now that it's here, it just brings even more capability to this camera system. 0.5x, 1x, and now 2x. And honestly, now that I think about it, those are the three focal lengths that I use the most anyway. And beyond what I've already said, the last two comments I have are that the bokeh naturally is even better this year with that main sensor now that it's bigger, and that translates to incredible video as well with the 2x crop 2 that's also available there. So yeah, the camera system in here is really, really solid. So much so I could probably get away with it even though I have more of a pro workflow. And finally, let's touch on performance here, which really is a non-issue. I almost don't like talking about it in videos now because ever since like the A11 that launched with the iPhone 10, I believe, performance has been marginally better each year, so much so that Apple puts last year's Pro chip in the 15. So the 14 Pro had the A16 Bionic, now it is in here, just like the iPhone 14 had the A15 Bionic, even though the iPhone 14 had the A16 Bionic, and the A15 Bionic was in the iPhone 13 Pro. That's a whole headache. What does that all mean? Well, performance is stellar here. You still get a wonderfully smooth iOS 17 experience. Apps open instantaneously. App switching or multitasking is perfectly fine. You have 6 gigs of RAM here. And even if you're a smartphone gamer, the A16 Bionic is more than good enough to handle most of your heavy-duty games. The only difference is with the iPhone 15 Pro, you get extra ray tracing capability. If you know what that means, maybe consider a Pro model. But other than that, performance here is equal, you know, it's negligible, the difference between the Pro and the 15 model here. This is one of the best performing smartphones you can get on the market. Apple Silicon really ages well, so much so Apple literally sells it to you again in a new model, even though this chip is technically a year old. And once again, this video is brought to you by my Skyline wallpaper pack. I have 9 pictures of 9 amazing buildings in Manhattan. My personal favorite is of World Trade Center 7, and I think these will look great on your iOS 17 lock screen and home screen, so check out my link in the description. So yeah, this is a solid phone. I'm probably gonna use it more beyond just my testing. It's super light, powerful, great display cameras, all of that, very pro without the pro price. Again, check out my Skyline wallpaper packs and my other links in the description, Instagram, TikTok, check me out there. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one.